Welcome to our CSV import-export video tutorial. If you're familiar with Excel or the CSV format, we have a great tool for you today. GlobalLink's CSV import-export feature allows you to make bulk changes to products, listing details, and listings offline on your very own desktop. And then you can upload these changes back onto the GlobalLink system. For many sellers, this may increase efficiency by taking the data entry process offline, which essentially removes the performance constraints of an online system. Our import-export feature is simple to use. First, go to the Import and Export menu, and then click on the CSV Import-Export submenu item. To add a new import-export request, click on the green Import-Export button on the right. You will then be given multiple options. Either export a file from our system or import an edited or completed CSV file from your desktop. Let's first take a look at the export feature. You can export products, listing details, scheduled listings, and active listings. And now let me give you an example of how this works. Let's say, for example, some of your products, due to heavy competition, have dropped in price, and you need to make edits immediately to keep abreast of the market. That means you would have to edit the active, scheduled, and offline listing templates to complete the necessary changes. For today's purpose, let's first fix the listing details, which generate the live listings so that I won't have to deal with any more new listings with outdated prices. So let's go ahead and select the Listing Details option, and then click Next. From there, you can then select the products which have associated listing details that you would like to make changes to. In this case, I am selling celebrity posters and pictures. Let's first select ID 16 and ID 18 and view the listing details, assuming that these prices are now out of date. Now I can see all the listing details associated with the products which I have to make price changes to. I can then select all and click the Export button. From there, you can give your export task a name. Let's call this Celebrity Posters, and today's date is 12/18/2009, export. And then you can select the relevant columns that you want to make changes to. You can either select the pricing fields, or you can select all the columns to view all the listing attribute information. And obviously, the more columns you select, the more data there is to export and the longer it takes. So in the future, for efficiency's sake, you might just want to select the columns that you need to make changes to. After I do this, I can click OK. Then I will be taken back to the CSV Import-Export Summary page, which I can see my task being initiated. And then you will also see the progress bar, which indicates how many percent of the task has been completed. You can click the refresh button to update the progress. After a short while, you'll notice that the progress bar indicates 100% complete, and you'll see under the Download Details column an Export Listing Details CSV file, which is a data that you just requested to download from GlobalLink, and also a very important file called instructions and definitions.zip. This will include many of the definitions and reference for a lot of the data inside the Export Listing Details CSV file, which you will see later on. So all we have to do is simply click on the hyperlink value, and then it'll give us the option to save it to desktop. And when we save it to desktop, you can see that I've already went ahead and saved these two files to my desktop and unzipped the file. And then we could open up the CSV file, and this is what it looks like. You can see, first of all, the CSV file has many columns, each with a column header plus values below, with all of my listing details. Several things to note before we get started is that some column headers will have this read-only column label. That means that you should not change any of the data or values in the cells below, or else it might cause upload failure when you make your changes and try to upload it back to the GlobalLink system again. Secondly, an important thing to note is that some values in the cells below might not make a whole lot of sense. For example, eBay site ID, instead of saying, for example, eBay US, is labeled 0. And that's when we have to go back to the instructions and other information zip file that we downloaded earlier. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. After I unzip it, you will see that there are many reference files in there for each of the column headers that use values to substitute for actual text. For example, 0 to substitute for eBay US. We can simply look at the reference file and see what each of these values mean. For example, you can see in the A column, you'll see the attribute ID, and in the B column, you'll see the description. So for A, you'll see 0, and then for the B column, you'll see United States. So it becomes very clear that the value 0 in eBay site ID means the United States. And there are a whole bunch of reference files that if you're confused, you could constantly open up the reference file and relate it to the CSV file that you download to get a better understanding of what each of the values mean, and thereby go about your changes more appropriately. So now let's get started. We want to make changes to the price. So for example, for this particular listing, we can take a look at changing the price. So let's just say the prices have dropped, and in order to be competitive, I probably have to change the starting price. Let's go to 0.99. Let's change the reserve price to $2 and change the buy it now price to $4. And once I am done, I can simply click save, and then this will save the CSV file, and then I can close it, and then I can go back to the system and get ready to import the file back to the GlobalLink system.